What's up, everybody? It's your boy ShowtimeDr. I'm back. So I wanted to give you guys, based off my experiences with the game in just over a month, the updated re-rolling guide. Now I had to squish in these photos, so I'm sorry it's not like perfectly symmetrical, but deal with it. So anyways, eventually I'm going to make a separate guide for how to hit the ground running. I'll probably release that after this video. But this is going to be which characters I think you should re-roll for, and what combination of characters actually. Because, so one thing to understand, when you play this game, once you finish stage 110, you get 30 re-rolls essentially. They built a re-roll process into the game. So 30-10 rolls. So you're going to get some relics, you're going to get some characters, and hopefully you're going to get a good 5-star character, a good 4-star character, and a good 3-star character. There are good 3-star characters in this game. And as Smilegate and all those guys have said, you can beat this game with 3-star characters. So it's not ironclad that you have to have one of these, but some of these characters are just too damn good, guys. So I'm going to go over which characters are good here. So from my previous video, my advice changes a little bit because I have experienced endgame and I have experienced most of the characters. All the characters actually that I'm going to recommend here, but most of the characters that have had an impact on me. And by the way, this guide is not going to include, obviously, the midnight summons, or whatever they're called, because you don't get those until you beat 1010 in normal mode, and it's also not going to include any of the banner units that came out after the initial Korean release, because I don't know for sure if they're going to be released or not, so there's no point in recommending them if I don't know that. So here are my recommendations for you guys, and one other thing to note too is you can only get one 5-star. It can be a relic or it can be a character. You definitely want a character, so do not keep a 5-star relic roll. Just get rid of that ASAP. But you can get an exceptionally good, let's say a 5-star character, 1 or 2 4-star characters, and then a 3-star character, or maybe a couple 3-star characters, along with some relics. These are the combinations I'm going to recommend to you guys, because this will help you not only in the early game get out the ground, off to a good start, but you also late game, it becomes especially important in this game to have support and tanks. So not to say that a good DPS isn't worth, anything, because clearly they are, but the strongest combinations I found in this game are supports and attackers and tanks that all have a wide range of either self-mitigation, like lifesteal, or self-buffing, good debuffs, as well as healing mechanics, some type of healing mechanics, because as noted in this game, you only really get one life bar. There are only a couple heroes in the game that can revive, and you're not going to get any of them at the beginning of the game. So you got to protect your health bar, and you got to, amplify, mitigate, debuff, etc. So here we go. I'll get started for you guys. So probably the #1 character you're going to want to reroll for in most cases. She is on the right side of the screen for you guys, Destina. Destina is the only 5-star healer you can get early. There's an inverse Destina, along with, I think there's another 5-star healer in the Moonlight summons, but Destina is going to be your girl. Now, the things that make Destina girl, I won't go over in depth what she does, but she always heals with all her abilities. That's #1. Her auto attack gives a 15% heal. And I'm basing this off level 1 skills, guys, because leveling the skills takes some time. A 15 base heal, 15% life heal to whoever the lowest HP on the team is at the time. Your team consists of 4 people. Her 2 is a pretty fat heal, single target heal that also, it used to give an attack power buff. Now I'm not so sure, because I have her and I haven't actually seen it go up, but essentially it's a big fat heal. And then her 3 not only is a big fat AoE heal, and her healing scales by her vitality, by the way, so always keep that in mind, get her as much life as possible. It's a fat AoE heal, but if you have up to 4 debuffs on a party member, and this goes for the entire party, it will give you 15% turn haste per debuff removed. So essentially at max you can get 60%. So say you're at like 15%, boom, after she casts her ult, you can get down to 75%, so your turn's going to come faster. And that is very powerful, and she is the best healer in the game right now because of that. So Destina is a high recommend, but you don't necessarily need her on your reroll. I still recommend her number 1. And I will go over why later when I start to piece together, but let's get to the other characters here. So Ravi, that is the girl you guys see on the left of your screen right now. Ravi is a two-handed axe wielder. Her 1, life steals, does a great amount of damage and life steals. Her 2 is a passive that it is a charge bar that builds up underneath her life bar. The higher it goes, the harder she's hitting, the harder she's hitting, the harder her 1's life stealing. When you get that bar to a certain percentage, I remember it's over 50%, I just forget exactly where, it's like 70% or something. You open up her 3. Her 3 is a big fat AoE stun, 75% chance to stun, mitigated by whatever their resistance is. And also, if they are water, the elemental resistances in this game play a huge factor, not only in damage, elemental weaknesses rather, not only in damage, but resisting the debuffs of the class that you counter. So it's harder against water characters, but overall it's a 75% stun, does a big fat amount of damage, and it's one of the best graphics in the game, honestly. So Destina is probably... Am I comfortable saying this? I'm recommending her over Says. And the reason... Well, when we get to Says, I'll explain more why, but Ravi can tank for you if you get her either the lifesteal set or a really good armor set that lets her do a ton of damage, like lots of damage subs on her attack and her crit, etc. Otherwise, you need the lifesteal set. It's a 4-piece set, gives her 20% additional life regen, and she's just going to be the only way you're going to stop her is 3 ways. You're going to one-shot her. Someone puts up the anti-debuff, the anti-healing debuff, or she gets stunned and she can't lifesteal up. That's the only way to stop her if she has enough lifesteal and enough damage. So that's my recommendation for the number 1 characters. Now, like I said before, these are both 5-star characters. You can only get 1. So if you want DPS, my opinion, go for Ravi. If you want support, go for Destina. Now, I am going to show you some other characters that if you get them, and this is all your account, your business, whatever you want to do. So the only other 5-star hero I'm going to recommend, well, actually there's 2. In fact, I'll just switch to him right now. Oh no, she's 4-star, never mind. Okay, well, never mind, I'll get back to her. So this is Says. So like I said earlier, I'm recommending, let me scroll down. I'm recommending Ravi over Says. It's not because Says doesn't do his job. Says probably, as far as AoE damage goes, puts out more damage than Ravi will. But the greater majority of what he does is he doesn't have very much stuff for the team, and that stuff becomes very important later on. Now, he does have some debuffs. He puts up an anti-healing debuff, which can be really good. And then, you know, he has... The crazy thing about Says is the lower someone's health is, he's like a finisher. So, like you see here, proportionally to lost health of a target, when target dies, inflicts additional damage to all enemies. That's what his ulti does, so he is one of the top finishers in the game. And he also stops healing, and the basic thing you want to do with Says, you want to get him... there's a relic in the game, it looks like 2 girls, like, cuddling with each other with their boobs on each other. It's a 5-star relic that is only for rogue characters, which he is. You can see it right here, what type of character it is. It gives him additional chance to... take an extra turn, 10% chance, and if you level it up all the way, I think it gets to 20%. So you want Says taking as many turns as possible, and you want him to be attacking and killing people, because every time he kills someone, he basically procs extra damage. He may get an extra turn out of it. Just depends what's going on. Now, the reason I don't recommend Says over Ravi is because A, there are enough characters in this game, including 4 and 3-star characters, that cover the DPS role sufficiently enough that you can meld them into your team a little bit better. Not to say that Says isn't really freaking good at his job, but in my opinion, he just doesn't bring enough to the team. Now, that being said, I would perfectly welcome a Says if, he pops up after the initial reroll process. I would perfectly welcome him. He can fill roles on the team, etc. But I'm just saying, in my recommendation, you do not want to reroll for Says. Now, once again, it's your account. You can do whatever you want if you really want Says. Says is cool as hell. His graphics are cool as hell. His character thing's cool as hell. But the only issue with him is he's pure damage in a world where there is better pure damage than him, like Brawler Ken once you get to the Moonlight Summons. Still really great character, and if you get him, you feel like rerolling, you want that. Now, if you do want Says, then here is my recommendation to you. If you're going to get Says, then you need to get Achates. And there's no way around it. You need Achates. Now, Achates, I'll introduce you guys to her. She is the second best healer in the game, right behind Destina. She's a 4-star. Her abilities very much mirror Destina's. The only issue is on her 1, instead of it being a passive heal, her 1 is an attack down at about a 50% clip. I believe it's 30% less attack to whatever you attack. And all the debuffs and buffs in this game, by the way, are really good, guys. But you're going to need a good healer. You're going to need a good support. So, to be perfectly honest, I personally am not going to take a reroll that does not have Destina or Achates in it. And it doesn't need both, because you don't need both, but it needs to have one or the other, because the healer in this game and the support in this game is super important late game. So, if you get a Says and you get an Achates, that's a good reroll. I'd take that. And if I get that opportunity, I probably will take that. If you get a Ravi and an Achates, I'd take that too. That's a pretty damn good reroll. So any other 5-star characters that you guys might have formulated on your own, make sure you're getting either Achates or Destina, in my opinion. Because if you don't have one or the other, you're gonna have some hard times, because the initial healer they give you is garbage. And the one, well, I shouldn't say garbage, it takes a lot longer to get them up to a point where they're decent. There is, in the lobby, there's a table in the corner where you can recruit more characters once you fulfill their quest conditions. There is a guy named Elson there that can serve as a backup healer, because he also buffs defense and attack, which is really nice for mitigation and damage purposes, but he only has one AoE heal, and it's not a super strong heal, so it's kind of, so my personal opinion goes, get Achates or get Destina in your reroll. So, anyways, but, depending on which 5-star character you want, if you want Ravi, because the reason I say Ravi over Says is Ravi is passively healing herself all the time, on top of, like, if you got Ravi and Achates, her 2 makes you immune to everything but debuffs, and the debuffs don't do any damage, but they still are applied to you as a single target. And her 3 is a big AoE ult that dispels as well. I forgot to mention that in Destina, it dispels all the debuffs as well as gives you haste. Achates does the same thing, but it doesn't give you haste. So, but overall, Achates is a super phenomenal character. I used her most of the time when I got her. So that's my recommendation for that, guys. Now I'm going to show you some other characters that if you get them in your role, like considering these 4 characters that I recommend, consider it, depending on who it is, it's either gravy or it's another good side dish or something. So Armin is, bar none, the best tank in the game that you can get early. There is a tank that comes out later that gets pretty close, assuming that they keep to the Korean schedule of releasing heroes. I'm not completely sure if they're going to do that. But Armin is your best tank. Armin, the thing about her that's really cool, number 1, her first attack has a stun. There's no taunt in this game, by the way, for the most part. I think there's like 1 or 2 exceptions, but for the most part, there's not. Her 1 not only stuns, I think it's at like a 30% clip, but in fact, let me look at that real quick. 25%, yeah. So then not only does it stun though, but the more debuffs that are on the enemy, it has a higher chance to stun based off the number of debuffs. So they didn't give us the percentages, but I'm assuming it's like 5 to 10%, who knows. So goes off at a pretty good click. Now her 2, and keep in mind guys, a lot of the skills change a little bit when you get the 3rd purple star in the hero. But her 2 gives you an AoE that blinds, and it also does a poison, which the poison ticks in this game are actually pretty good. Hers are just decent, but... And her 3 is a big AoE ult that heals you, and it also puts up a big fat damage shield. So, the damage shield is dependent on her armor, how much armor you've given her, and the healings depend on how much health you've given her. So, gear her for health and armor. If you get this character on top of, say, a Ravi or whoever else, you know, once again, I highly recommend get Destina or Achates, but Armin will serve as a pretty good damage mitigation / she can heal a little bit. And if you're lucky enough to get the 5-star relic where she shares, I believe it's 10% of the damage that everybody takes, you know, just build her tanky as hell, and this is going to be your top tier tank as far as early game goes. So, and she is a 4-star, by the way, so it is possible to get her and Achates and Destina, or her Achates and Ravi or Says or whatever. So now I'm going to go to another 4-star DPS character. This is Karen over here. So Karen, the thing with Karen is the way that you build her. She's a 4-star water unit. Karen needs to crit as much as possible. All of her stuff revolves around crit. She also needs as much crit damage and attack as possible. And it is also good to get her debuff, increased debuff chance, debuff accuracy, and, you know, the usuals like life, etc. So when you crit with her 1, it brings down the cooldown on her 2 and her 3. If you crit with her 2, her 2 is a defense down debuff, which is super strong in this game, by the way. The breaks in this game are very strong. A defense down debuff, if she crits with her 2, she instantly takes another turn. So she's very much like Says, to where you want to give her that relic that gives her increased chance to take an extra turn, because she's going to... I've had her proc up to 4 or 5 turns in a row. It's pretty nuts. And then her 3, if you crit with her 3, it's just a big single target damage. Not only will it do the crit damage, but it also gets an additional multiplier to that crit, so it's actually hitting harder than a normal crit would. So Karen is a very good DPS in this game, and she's actually underrated. Her only issue is she's a little bit squishy, but I mean, that's why you bring tank characters and healing characters. So Karen is if you get her as one of your 4-star units, consider her, she is probably, in my opinion, you know, before you get the Moonlight and before you get to some of the other heroes that are coming out, she's one of the top, I don't know, am I prepared to say top 5? Maybe not top 5, but I would put her in top 10 for DPS. She might be top 5. She's like 4th or 5th. But, I mean, you get her, I have her crit chance to 68% on my Korean account. And her crit damage is at like 160 or whatever percent. So she is a freaking beast. So Karen's a really good hero. If you happen to get her in your reroll, don't aim for her necessarily, but if you happen to get her, she's really effing good. She can cover the DPS role just fine on everything that is not wind. So, and even on wind characters, she'll still do pretty good. It'll just be harder for her to get the defense down up, which is a pretty important debuff there. So, now Cecilia, I never got Cecilia, unfortunately. And Cecilia, when the game started, you're going to get to use her in the tutorial. When the game started, she was actually not that good. This is the girl with all the swords. But they buffed her probably... God, I forget. It was like a month ago or so. So she's an archer character, which means that she can have the card that she will get increased chance to follow-up attacks proc randomly during battle, and she will hit harder. I believe it's like 16 to 14% harder on follow-up attacks. You want that with this hero, because I'll show you what this character does. So her 1, You know, single target, 35% chance to reduce the target's defense for 2 turns. That's super strong. You can upgrade it to get it to eventually 50% when you get it down here. That's a super good skill, guys, for a 1. And that's her follow-up attack, guys. Her follow-up attack. All the follow-up attacks in this game are the 1s. So if you can get a follow-up attack that has a chance to put defense down, and she's doing good damage too, it's pretty ridiculous. Now her 2, reduce skill cooldown of all allies except yourself by 2 turns. That is crazy. That is insane. That is nuts. So I would actually put her as one of the top 5 DPS. Not only DPS, but supports in this game, because she increases the total damage of your entire team. That is insane. 6-turn cooldown, but still. That is insane. And it's also her soul skill, which, you know, we can go more on that when I release the character guides. And then her ultimate attack, Storm of Swords, Full Bloom, removes all beneficial effects and black beneficial effects for 2, or blocks beneficial effects, sorry, for 2 turns. So essentially, not only is it a dispel, which is fairly rare in this game, and very powerful because you need dispels for a lot of the bosses in these games, it blocks beneficial buffs for 2 turns. That's dumb. I've never seen anyone else that can do that. Now, not to say that they're not out there, I just haven't seen it. So it's not common, is what I'm saying. Increase damage proportionally to the amount of mana. Consumes all mana after use. Mana is a passive. Where is it? Essentially, it's like a self-stacking thing that she does, So this hero, Cecilia, is nuts. If you get her, she is also a 5-star, by the way, that, from the DPS end, once again, I recommend you should go get her with Achates. I would take that, by the way. I would also take that as a reroll. So, like I'm saying, you get her, then you should get Achates here, because that will help keep her alive, and then you're covered for grass damage or tree damage or whatever, and you're covered for your heals here. Now, there are going to be 2 more characters I'm going to say you should consider. And by the way, guys, if you have experience with some of the other characters, you know, I don't have experience with every character, so please feel free to recommend, you know, some things I might have overlooked or just missed out. But these are the last 2 heroes I'm going to tell you about now. First, I'm going to go into Cyrus. Let me roll down here. Now, Cyrus, she used to be the best kept secret in this game. She's a 3-star. Both of these are 3-stars, by the way. And I will tell you quite honestly, Cyrus's 1 sucks, except that it puts up poison at, I believe, a 30% clip. Cyrus's 2, and this is, I'm talking about damage-wise, sucks. It's garbage. It's an AoE. But the cool thing about it is it has a chance to extend debuffs, and not only her debuffs, so any debuffs in the game, including blocks all beneficial buffs, stuns, anti-healing, dots, attack down debuffs, defense down debuffs, etc. So in that sense, it is a very good skill. But the thing that makes her is her 3. Now, her 3 is she self-buffs, and once you get her 3rd purple star, she will take an additional turn right after she self-buffs. And then you hit the enemy with your 1, and it has a 100%, in quotes, chance to put up 3 poison debuffs. And her poison ticks hard, guys, hard. Like on bosses with tons of health, it ticks for a percentage, and it ticks hard when you get 3 and 4 up. So what you want to do with her is, right at the beginning of the battle, if you're in a boss fight, use her 3, hit the boss with your 1, and then immediately on her next turn, use your 2 so you can extend the duration of the buffs. Now, she got nerfed. She used to be God tier. Now she's, you know, a little bit under God tier. It used to be you could burn her 3, and it would give it cooldown reduction so you could stack more poison faster. But it's just the way it is. So I'm not saying reroll for this hero, Cyrus. But if you get her, understand that she is going to help you a lot on boss battles as far as the Eternal Tower dungeon. A lot of the bosses in the farming dungeons, and even some of the bosses in the real world, because you're going to need to take... There's lots of stipulations of take an archer, take a grass hero, etc. So This character, you know, don't reroll for them per se, because odds are you're going to draw her fairly early in the game because she's a 3-star. But, you know, keep her in mind, if you get her and you get, say, Karen and you get Achates, that's a damn good start, guys. So that's all I'm saying about that. So keep Curious in mind here. Now, Carmen Rose. Carmen Rose is also a 3-star. She's part of what I call the Pleiades maids, for those of you that watch Overlord. There might be more. There's 4 or 5 maids in the game, corresponding to every element. I believe it's 5, actually. Carmen Rose is the best one. The water one's actually decent too, if you happen to get her, but Carmen Rose is the best one. Now, the reason Carmen Rose is the best is because you can actually take Carmen Rose and build her into a nasty tank in this game. So, and the reason being, I'll show you here. Her 1 regenerates health, and you can eventually recovery amount. I'm not sure exactly what the percentage is, but you can get a bonus to 30%. So probably it's somewhere in the realm of 45 to 50% once you upgrade it 4 times. So think about that, 50% of her damage, and she does do good damage, guys. It's not just a support hero. She's meant for damage. Her 2, it is a 35% reduction in the action gauge. That is the gauge on the left side of the screen during combat that determines when your turn's going to go. Once you get to 100%, it's whoever's at 100%'s turn. You can reduce it by 35% with her 2 on a 4-turn cooldown, which is pretty strong. And you reduce their overall speed, I believe it's by 30%. So, and eventually when you upgrade this, you can reduce 55% of their action gauge. So that's pretty strong on a 4-turn cooldown, along with a snare of their total speed buildup, or turn cooldown. And then her 3, it is a big ult, hits pretty hard, and it also removes all beneficial effects. So like I said, anything that dispels in this game, super good. Not only that, but it increases her attack power and defense. It buffs her basically 30% of each for 2 turns. If you burn it, it extends the duration of the buffs to 3 turns. So this hero is super good. Once again, just like Curious, I don't recommend rerolling specifically for her, but if she happens to be there on one of your rerolls, along with those combinations that I've drilled into your head, hopefully by now, guys, you want Achates or Destina, and you want a 5-star that's either a Cez, a Ravi, maybe you want Cecilia, whatever you got going on. So, and yeah, those are my recommendation, guys, for the characters that I think you should consider when you're doing your rerolls. Now, once again, just for full disclosure so people understand, if you go through all 30 of your rerolls and you don't come up with a combination that you like, it's not the end of the world. You're just going to have to basically reset the account, which is possible. You go back to 1-1, you run 1-1 to 110 again, and then you go through the whole thing again. So, but you have to keep whatever reroll you want while you're on it. You can't just do 30 rerolls and, okay, I'm gonna go pick the 3rd one because that was the best one. No, you gotta pick whichever one. So hopefully this guide helps you guys. Once again, if you guys have experiences with characters I didn't cover from the Korean server that are not going to be either Moonlight characters or the initial summon characters, because some of them came on banners later. And I'm also not counting the heroes that are at the table, because you can just get them at the table. You don't have to worry about re-rolling them. And I'll do a separate table guide as to which heroes at the table are good. But if you guys have any other heroes that you guys want to recommend or you think I should cover a little bit, let me know. And once again, guys, looking forward to this. We got 2-day countdown here, so... Yo, I'm ShowtimeDr, ShowtimeDr on Twitch. You found my YouTube. Consider hitting like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Also, look in the title notes. There's a link to my Twitch, ShowtimeDr, twitch.tv over there. Come follow me. I'm gonna be streaming this game. I'm gonna hit the ground running. Probably have 2 accounts, honestly. Just to guarantee I don't run out of stuff to do. And then also in the title notes, there's a link to my Discord. You can come in. We've got a great community in there with Epic 7 tab, along with some other games, general anime heads, etc. So, peace out, guys. I'm going to be putting out some more videos today, so have yourselves a wonderful day.